Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Tea Time with Distinguished. I'm your man, Distinguished. Now, I have the distinct honor, privilege, and pleasure to introduce somebody who I look up to fondly, and I mean that with all sincere respect. This is a man who I've watched do amazing things on Facebook and in person to impact and make a beautiful impact on his community. I met this brother when I was 24 years old. Shout out to the good sister Melody Fox. I was doing valet parking at the time, and I was outside, and I was talking to a brother. This was around the time where Powerhouse was doing a big event with all the OGs, Warren G, Sticky Fingers, all at the Barclays. And I remember like it was yesterday, and she was out there, telling people about the event, and I started spitting, and she was like, "Hey, I like what you're doing." So she invited me later on to a community event, and that's where I met the good brother. And from there, just everything that he's been doing and everything that he embodies as a man and as somebody who knows knowledge himself and knows who he is and where he's going, I had to connect with him. So, and he's also a fellow Taurian like myself, so I definitely had to connect with the brother. So without further ado, my big brother, Siekiem. Peace.
Peace, King. Peace.
How are you?
It's a pleasure, man. Definite honor to be here.
I appreciate you, man. It's been a long time coming.
Definitely a long time coming, and I truly apologize for the wait.
It's all good. Patience is a virtue.
True indeed. No better time than the present.
Yes. So, there's a lot of things we could talk about, but first and foremost, I really want to get the people to know exactly who you are. Okay. So, who are you?
I am Siekiem Kontom. Most recently, a retired New York City correction officer. Rikers Island, my entire career. Outside of that, and most importantly, I'm a person that loves my community. I live and die for my community. I live and die for my people. I run a foundation which I began in 2006, MSK and Presents, which are the acronyms of my name. Throughout my foundation, I've given away scholarships, thousands of dollars in scholarships, clothes drives, food banks, health initiatives, assisting families within the shelter system, community forums, which is the actual event in which I met you at, where you did a powerful poetry speech, which I still have downloaded. For the most part, I'm just your average individual with a very profound outlook on our life, our community, where we should be, and I have a strong, as he definitely knows, I am very strong-willed and opinionated when it comes to our livelihood, the things that we take for granted and the things that we should be more focused on. I address those things daily as if it's like breathing air, because these are the things that I think we take for granted, or we expect other people to bear our own burden. And I feel it's imperative that I address that. And I'm a person that's in the community. I do a lot, but I move about any and every community. So I'm not hard to find.
That is a beautiful introduction to who you are. I'm sure the people got a mouthful watching that. Like, wow, we wasn't expecting that. So you mentioned something earlier. So tell us a little bit, not too much, because you're retired now. I don't want you to get no memories on flashbacks.
No.
I want everything to be positive on Tea Time.
It's going to be positive.
But tell the people exactly what made you at such a young age, 'cause I know you started when you were real young. What made you say, I want to be a New York City correctional officer? Because a lot of people,
that's a good question, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about why African American or Latino men and women take civil service jobs. And to be perfectly honest, when you're coming out of high school and you're going into college or you're doing whatever, it's sort of like, that mantra of take a test. You never know, take a test. And even though that was partially it, that wasn't my immediate reality. Way back, I was a dude of the element. And I always had knowledge of self. I was always aware of my surroundings and the things that were transpiring within my community. So it was very clear, outside of the other elements that were enemies, police officers were always the enemy. Law enforcement was always the enemy. But being that I had insight, something, hit me on the back of the head before I caught a felony or before I got arrested. Let me do something to counter and protect my own livelihood.
Right.
So I took the test. Taking the test wasn't to necessarily become an officer at that time, to aspire in the field of law enforcement. It was a way of protecting myself. It goes to that saying, if you can't beat them, join them.
Right.
So that ideology always stuck with me, not to use it in a negative advantage, but to know if I'm outside of my community in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and we knew that the majority of the police officers that harassed us didn't know their rules and regulations to the T. Right. They just did certain things because they knew we didn't know anything about the law. So they can abuse whatever little knowledge that they have. So what blessing would it be for you to run up on me as an officer, not knowing who I am, and try to hit me in the head with the BS? So that was always my position. If I'm going to live in my community, let me serve it justice. And let me do it, twofold. Let me secure a career. Let me secure a pension.
Right.
Let me provide for my family, but still stand, hold court with my people.
Right.
And that's what it was about.
Wow.
That's all it was about.
Wow. So literally, it just wasn't taking the test, passing the test. You knew that deep down inside, it's got to be more than just wearing the badge, wearing the uniform, and bearing the honor.
Definitely. And coming from where we come from, specifically where I came from, I knew me being inside those prisons, I knew that I was going to see individuals just like me.
Right.
And I definitely did. I saw individuals that I grew up with.
Wow.
I saw individuals that I knew personally in particular, arenas. And, that was, the wake-up call for me in a sense, because as we both stood in that immediate contrast, it's like me seeing that individual made me get a sense of my reality, and that individual seeing me gave him a sense of that reality.
Wow.
Because it could be either or at the drop of a dime. We never know. You could be riding in the car with somebody, and somebody has something that you have no knowledge about, and here you are railroaded. So knowing all of this stuff, even at a teenager, it's like, what do we have as our immediate, that's going to educate us?
Right.
Nobody. The most we know about law enforcement was chips on TV.
Jules.
or Shaft. And nothing was our tangible reality about law enforcement.
Tell it like it is.
There wasn't
Gil Noble voice.
There wasn't like the community boards where police officers came out to the community and really, lectured us or talked to us about. We had to learn by trial and error. And trial and error for me was getting thrown on the car, getting my locks pulled out by a detective, being harassed. That was my trial and error. So me knowing that, listen, they're not going to do this to me. They're not going to continue to do this to me.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to start picking. And I was picking up their law books before I even went into the academy.
Wow.
And that's something that everyone can do.
Right.
But we don't have that, people telling us, pick up the Black's, law dictionary.
Right.
Go pull up the New York State.
I got mine upstairs.
Yeah.
We don't play them games.
Go pull up the New York State penal and,
Right.
People don't generally think about that until they're inside prison.
Right. And they want to start reading books. Then they want to start learning and getting knowledge yourself.
I don't knock it, but in the society that we live in,
you shouldn't have to take that, though.
You have to be proactive rather than reactive.
Right.
That's a definite. And that's just the stance that I always wanted to be on. I wanted to be proactive because I was aware of my reality. And your reality is not going to change unless you change before it. And that's a
big jewel. Your reality is not going to change unless you change before it. Wow.
That's just actual fact. Like we could complain about everything, but if you're not doing anything in a minute to shift it, that pendulum is going to swing the way it's set to swing.
Right. So with that being said, being that you're now no longer wearing the badge, you're no longer in the uniform, you are retired, you did your time.
Yes.
You physically,
20
mentally,
years. Yes.
20 years.
And I got some stories if you want to get into
it. 20 years. Now, it's so interesting, ladies and gentlemen, that here we are watching a man who knows himself, a black man, a man who has seen what a lot of us have not seen, literally in between those walls with these brothers and sisters who have committed crimes or have had crimes that they weren't necessarily a part of, but they were just in the situation they ended up doing time for. There's a lot of situations that can go through a person's head when they are wearing that uniform. Now, tell me about a time where you knew for a fact that you were caught between a rock and a hard place, and there was a time where you probably may have wanted to say, yo, this ain't for me. Like this, it's just too much. Like I'm seeing things go on in here that mentally I don't want to do, but they saying I got to do it because I got the badge, I got the uniform, and I'm bearing the honor. I'm a correctional officer.
I'm gonna trip you up right now.
Okay.
Never.
Wow.
And the funny thing about it, and this
because I know correctional officers who left in 2 days.
But you see, I understand that and I respect that. Everything ain't for everybody.
Right.
But you got to understand, prior to that, like that element, that world,
right.
I came up in.
Okay.
Like, so it's like it wasn't foreign to me. Like I understood the nature. Like I knew when somebody had a raise in their mouth. I knew how their mouth was shifting because I used to do that.
Wow.
I knew the air when something was about to go down. Like you could see certain things minutes in advance. So this is the crazy thing. Right. And I say crazy loosely, but this is the crazy thing that the department knows. And certain individuals know, like, I used to be in there laughing. Like, I had, outside of all of the incidents that I've been in, I had a great time there. Why? Because that's my world. Like, I understand that dynamic. I understand that grit.
Right.
So, having that foresight, I could prevent certain things. I could stand in the middle of a room and see that man over there plotting on you. But being that I'm from that element, I can intercept and say, listen, step back for a second.
Right.
And you'll be here clueless. You won't even know what's going on. You'll be like, yo, what's for chow today?
Right.
You're about to get your head ripped off. But being that I'm from that element, I saw certain things. So I used that to my advantage. Now, were there certain instances where I said, like, yo, this is crazy? Yes, to myself, because I felt too comfortable. I felt like this is becoming too much ingrained in who I am, or it was reminding me too much of where I came from.
Right.
And that is the problem. Not even, I don't want to say problem, but that is the reality many officers that come from inner city communities deal with. Like, gang violence is not foreign to us. It has escalated in today's climate, but that's not foreign to us.
Okay.
People getting cut in the face, it's not foreign to us.
Right.
It's foreign to individuals that have to fathom that thought of getting cut.
Right.
But if you came up in that world, you say, I just got another cut.
Right.
But the person that got cut, that's the end of his world to him. But you like, you'll be all right. You know, they're going to put something on. They're going to give you. Like, you could tell a person what's going to happen to them and how it's going to look a week from now because you understand.
Right.
But being that victim, that's a lot. And that is what weighs on us because you have to deal with the repercussions of individuals getting hurt. Individuals' mentalities changing because of that. And if you're steady in the housing area, like you can have 50 to 100 inmates in there. So I have to deal with 50 to 100 personalities. You may be somebody that's going to cry every day. I got to make sure you don't hang up, which I had to do. Wow. And then I got to worry about the other 49 that want to rip you apart because they know you're going to cry every day. So you weak. You meat to them. Wow. So you got to sit there and like, listen. And then being in that environment, knowing that this is your daily environment, you have to become yourself to the 10th power. Not just for yourself, but I got to protect. They pay me to come in here and provide care and custody. So I got to care for the asshole as much as I have to care for, the defenseless person.
Right.
And then you got to deal with these different personalities, their mindsets, their attitudes, their mental issues. It's a lot of dynamics. And the only way you can really deal with that without succumbing to it, it's kind of engulfing yourself in it and not getting caught up in the immediate reality of it. You're like, you have to be a part of it to somehow diffuse it. Like, I can't stand on the outside and just watch everything take place and hoping everything figures itself out. Right. You can't do that. To be in the midst of those knuckleheads, unfortunately, sometimes you have to get in that world to let them know that I see what you're doing, but this is as far as it's going to go. Right. And that's for my benefit, for the knuckleheads' benefit, so they don't cause any more calamity for themselves, as far as for the, the supposedly victim. Right. That's the reality of it.
Right. Now, with that being said, it sounds like there's a lot of mental health.
Definitely.
Mental health issues and mental health situations that play a big role in people who end up being there, one, but then end up staying there for a long amount of time. So there's people that you have worked with, and there's people that you worked to protect that are still there.
Yes.
What exactly do you think is going to take for them, if they're not already there, to get to the mentality that you are today? Because you already had this type of mentality where you knew you had to get to your 10th highest self.
I came in, like I said, I came in with this mentality. Mm-hmm. Now, when you speak about mentality, are you talking about a degree of understanding or perseverance?
I'm speaking more about perseverance, because it takes a certain type of individual to do what you did, and you left people there still doing what you did, and you here with me.
True indeed. True indeed, and I'm glad to be alive and focused and have all of my faculties.
Right.
You have to know who you are. I tell anybody, especially recruits, when you come on a job, don't allow, the air that flows around you to make you into something that you're not.
Right.
If you're a kind-hearted person, continue to be that person.
Right.
Know that borderline between your profession and the individuals that you're here to protect. If you're a person, that is spiritual, do not lose your spirituality behind these gates. Remain who you are. Do not, hide that or change that for anybody.
Right.
Because you still have to go home with who you are. You have to be you 24/7, 365.
Right.
You gotta learn how to break down these 8 hours or these 16 hours as your professional responsibility. That does not define who you are as a person. Now, we would hope that who you are is intact as a person, and that carries you through your 8 and 16 hours. But do not let that profession or that title get to you and you falsely, take on this attribute of something that you're not.
Right.
So getting through that, you have to know who you are.
Right.
You can't put on this uniform and this badge and think that everybody that stands in alignment with you are going to allow you to do what you want to do, even if it's wrong. You can't have that mentality because you will fall short. You will end up on the other side of that gate. And that's where a lot of people fail with. They don't have knowledge of self, number one. And people always could, decipher what is knowledge of self, what does that mean?
Right.
Knowing who you are, knowing your purpose, knowing your objective, and living that out regardless of whom or what. And being an officer will test that.
Wow.
Because you got to stand firm. You got to stand firm in it. And I used to always get into discussions with inmates or detainees that incarcerated. Said, well, how can you be an officer and have knowledge of self? I said, do you profess to have knowledge of self? Yes. Well, how can you profess to have knowledge of self and be a criminal?
Hey guys, all right, thank you guys again so much. Remember, make sure you check out this beautiful, amazing woman, Perry Sands, Perrisands. Isa is a great product. We'll be talking about it throughout the entire season. As I mentioned, make sure you tune in to her, reach out to her today. So going back to our good brother, I wanted to actually touch on a few more things because this is what you did.
Yes.
But there's also other things that you're doing that's making a big impact on the community.
Yes.
So tell people about the organization that you started back up in 2006.
Yes, 2006 I began my foundation, MSKM Presents. I began that in Brooklyn, New York, Bedford-Stuyvesant to be specific. The reason that I began a foundation, coming up in a certain climate, 70s, 80s, 90s, you see a lot of things. And what became the common rhetoric, amongst my circle or amongst my media friends is everybody talks about what they want to see done. Right. Everybody talks about, what should happen. But rarely is somebody putting that ingenuity into making things happen. And the simple thing it is not some, miraculous story. I just got tired of hearing my peoples talk about what we need to be, what we need to see done.
Right.
I just did it.
Okay. Hence.
Oh yeah, the will of God.
The will of God just does it.
Yeah, you have to. We came up, with this, everything was like this super white power structure. You always had to have like this corporate entity to back you or to do something, or we need to go to Coca-Cola and ask them for money.
Right.
I'm like, listen, man, I grew up in an apartment complex, man, where it's like 10 apartments on one floor.
Right.
So if each of y'all put in $10, that's $100.
Right.
Now multiply that by how many floors is in this building.
Right.
You telling me we don't have money to do anything? Now y'all mentally stuck. Y'all so comfortable with expecting somebody to do something, but you don't want to put the ingenuity from yourself to go and do it.
Big juice.
And that's something that goes on to this day. People are so, they're just so.
Say it. Come on.
They're so. I'm trying to be respectful.
Oh yeah. It's a family-friendly show. Correct.
We're so complacent.
Right.
And that just never was my nature.
Okay.
So the big thing with me after discussing something is always about showing and proving. So you got to be like, well, if we're talking about doing this, how can it be done? I'm gonna show you how it's going to be done. I'm gonna put some money to the side, and I went to Stop and Shop.
Okay.
And I remember I loaded my trunk up with like about 40 turkeys.
Wow.
And this was around Thanksgiving. I came on my old block on Lexington Avenue between Marcy and Tompkins. Y'all know that area.
Right.
And I just popped my trunk and I gave out turkeys to the community.
I'm pretty sure a few OGs thought that was Bumpy Johnson, but it wasn't Bumpy Johnson. It was good brother Siekiem here doing good work in the community.
And the funny thing about that is like you get to really see how much the community needs.
Right.
Just a turkey. People don't understand. People say, well, what is a turkey? What does a turkey do?
I
say, if you came up the way I came up, where you could recall, taking 100 pennies to buy pizza.
Right.
Or you open up when you open up your cupboard like 3 times because you think something is going to appear in it. On the 3rd time, you realize there's nothing there.
Wow.
A turkey does a lot. And having something affects your mental state because being without definitely affects your mental state. So when somebody gives you something, or not necessarily gives, but can provide something that can reinforce, prosperity, can reinforce, a prosperous future or something that can come to fruition after that. Well, if he did this one year, maybe I can do. If you can spark that thought, just imagine the change that happens amongst everyone.
Right.
But everyone has to be participant and willing to think that way. So that was my thing. It wasn't somebody that, they read in the magazine. No, it was the dude that grew up with you at apartment 4D. He came around here giving out turkeys. Oh, word?
Right.
How you do that? The same way you can. Stop buying blunts. Stop buying 40s. Stop buying Timberlands. Stop buying unnecessary stuff.
Right.
And put back into yourself. That's just simple mathematics. But according to that, you have to be accountable. And nobody wants to be accountable. Nobody wants me to come on the block and say, listen, give me $10, give me $10, give me $10, because we doing this. Because nobody is built like that anymore. Nobody wants that responsibility. Or they'll come out to my events and ask, can they get a turkey for their grandmother? But they don't want to help me give out turkeys. They don't want, and that's small stuff. That's like, that's minute into the things we can do.
Yeah. Because that's just a small fraction of the power that we actually wield.
Yeah, but outside of that, I give out scholarships. I've been giving out scholarships since 2006. Twice a year in June and December. To males and females, $500 each. For kids that are aspiring in their academics, they necessarily do not have to be A or B students. You can be a C student, but as long as you're showing that progress, I'm gonna acknowledge you. And I specifically do that because a lot of people within our community, we read about people applying for scholarships, and I've spoken to parents several times, and I said, well, why don't you enter your child into the scholarship? I don't think my child is going to get it. First, you got to have faith in your child.
Wow.
Secondly, the biggest thing with that, a lot of parents do not entertain the scholarship application because of their reading level. They don't want to read the criteria of what it takes to put their child in this or apply for this scholarship. So they take I've seen it personally where they ball up the application that I give them and put it in their pocket.
Wow.
No, sis, you got to read that. Your son may need this. Your daughter may need this. Oh, okay. It's simple matter. Look at it, baby. This is something for your son. And aside with the scholarship, I always put the check and the stipend in the child's name because I want to teach them financial literacy. Because it's been, and I'll be perfectly honest, there's been several times I've written out the check to the parent name and then I see the kid a year later and they never seen any of the money.
Wow.
So I make sure from that point on, I put the check in the child's name. So now, sis, you got to take this check and open up a savings account for that son. Let him know because you feel a sense of empowerment. This is my money. I did something for it. My ingenuity, my studies, my hard work earned me this. Okay, now I got this $500. I could buy some books now. If I see that individuals like me are doing this for me, oh man, let me go out there and hustle now because I know that my community has acknowledged me. They see what I do. We don't have to exploit ourselves to be acknowledged elsewhere. we take care of our own. That's the duty. That's the civilized duty. That's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
So that's why I do that. Along with the scholarships, the clothes drops.
Right.
It's continuous thing. The Christmas and Kwanzaa book and toy drive.
I see that.
I stress literacy. I give out a toy, but you got to take a book.
But I see that.
I stress that because literacy is imperative in our community.
Right.
We're in this digital age, so anything somebody says to us, we take it for what it is.
Right,
we don't research, we don't do the knowledge.
Right. We don't do the backtracking.
We just take it, read this book.
Right.
So we need a lot of things in our community, and I try to play my part. I'm one person.
Yeah, you are. But you're doing amazing things.
But I do what I do.
Yeah, you are.
You know.
You are.
And I appreciate you for acknowledging that.
No problem, brother. And I, for the record, I have to make sure I get out to one of these community events. I've known him for 5 years, and I haven't been doing my due diligence.
It's all good.
Real recognizer, I got to make sure I make it out to one of these events so that I can show my solidarity and stand firm with the good brother.
But let me just build on that on your show. You do what you do within your circle, and that is to build alone. Because I see what you're doing, and it's not as if you're taking away from the community, you adding on. Mm-hmm. And the greatest add-on with that is that you pull people in. Mm-hmm. You assist people. You got me here in front of your camera. Now, the individuals that know me, now a different, demographic knows me. Right. So now the extension becomes bigger, and vice versa.
Right.
So I never take weight to people showing up or not showing up, because it's not about me.
Right.
Like I said, and I'm big on this, and this is a lot of things that many of us have a problem with, especially men that does things in the community.
Right.
It's like an ego trip. Like, you ain't gotta top me.
Right.
Go out there and do something else.
Right.
Because competing with me is not good.
Right.
Unless somebody's benefiting from it.
Right.
You don't talk about my 500. Give somebody 1,000. You know what I'm saying?
Jules.
So that's how I see it. So regardless if either of us can make it or not.
Right.
I know in the back of my mind that God is over there doing something.
Right.
He's showing people, how to be in front of the camera as well as behind the camera.
Right.
He's putting people in the spotlight.
Right.
Individuals that may need that.
Right.
So he's doing his justice. It ain't like he's sitting back and he critiquing on everybody. God is out here doing something.
Right.
So that's peace right there.
Right.
So I live by that.
Okay.
So if I see you or if I don't see you, I know we doing what we doing.
I appreciate you.
And that's
I just want to let the people know. I ain't no hypocrite. I just want to let the people know.
Nah.
So
if you was, I'd be here dressed. You know.
And I appreciate that. Real recognize real. You know what I mean? So you recently too just became a book author.
Yes, sir.
And you're working on part 2.
Part 2 will be out in 2020.
Nice.
To talk about that, yeah.
Right.
Just my thoughts.
How did that, come about? I mean, you always were putting your thoughts out into the universe, especially on social media. Very active, ruffling a few feathers. Not necessarily, but just trying to evoke and spark about conversation.
Yeah.
What exactly was the thought process in Just My Thoughts?
The actual thought process of Just My Thoughts is this. Just My Thoughts was just a collaboration of thoughts that I've always had written.
Right.
And a good brother of mine's, God body dude, he came to me, was like, listen, man, you should write a book. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm too busy.
Right.
Community, I'm trying to do this and do that.
Right.
And that's not, my focus, because that's another world you got to concentrate on.
Right.
He's like, nah, just send me a couple of pieces of your work. And that's what happened.
Okay.
And the book came from there. Like I've always written, I've always expressed my thoughts, I've always had that in me.
Right.
But that book just took on another animal, like in a sense. I became public enemy #1 with the book.
Yeah.
Because I'm giving it to people.
Yeah. Raw.
I'm
raw. No Vaseline.
Yeah. And it's people gotta understand that the nature of the book, it is raw. But it's not raw in a condemning way. It's like a conversation as if I'm talking to my brother. If I feel you slipping, I'm going to check you on it.
Right.
But I'm not just going to check you and leave you in balance.
Right.
I'm saying this is what we need to do.
Right.
And it goes back to what I said, like we got to stop complaining about what we don't see and we got to act on it. We got to stop, mumbling under our breath about injustice that takes place around us and start addressing it, and the individuals that are actually perpetrating that.
Right.
And I'm big on that.
Right.
And we can get on that. Like, gangs, all of that stuff. Like I'm face to face with that stuff. Like certain things, I look at as poison, man. And I don't care what you think you profiting from, or if you think that's your livelihood and it's the way it is. Nah, I'm here to address it, and I'm sincere about that. Why? Because I see and I've saw the end effects of that.
Right.
I see the dudes that be on the streets beating up on their girls, or raping their girls, but sitting in jail between dudes' legs, getting their hair braided, kissing dudes and doing all of this other stuff. Living this double life with dudes.
Wow.
Disrespecting their mothers on visits and calling their mothers bees and disrespecting their children in front of their women. Then go in their cell crying because of a lifestyle that they got themselves in. And that's the reality, because New York, and this is just me speaking, New York City is not not a gang state, a gang city. Gangs, yes, used to run in New York City, but this has never been a gang city. This is not what we're known for. We're not.
So for it to be happening, a few people probably scratching their head like, where we going?
For it to be happening is because there's no guidance there, and listen, there's no real men. There's no real men with that. There's no. I don't care who you are, who you think your OG is. There's no real men in our community. Bottom line, because real men handle things in a certain accord.
Right.
The stuff that transpires in our community is not reality.
Right.
You get no points out of gang raping women. You get no points out of, the incident that happened in the Bronx with the young boy where you drag him out of a store and you butcher him with a machete.
R.I.P. man.
That's not reality.
Right.
That you can't even build from that. You can't even tell me what was the end result of that. Like, what was the progress from that? Selling drugs and all of this stuff. And when I say selling drugs, I gotta speak with a split tongue because I come from that world. So I understood what it was for me. But what it is now is just a total different animal, and it's individuals like leading themselves. Why do they lead themselves? Because there's no real guidance out here. It's nobody to say, this don't fly. And individuals that are of my age and should be doing the knowledge of certain things, they succumb to not being solidified or not being recognized, so they let things pass for a buck on the side, for a little recognition. And that's what this is. New York City, this is not New York City, man. New York City is the city of the gods. This is what we're known for. We're known for enlightenment. Even when gangs ran the streets in the 70s and the 80s, even back in the 60s, even in the 50s, they were about protection. You can't protect him and rape his sister. You can't sell drugs to her and then stab his brother. That's counterproductive. And there are no individuals out addressing this
publicly.
Yeah, exactly.
On the forefront.
Everybody just they over there doing their thing. As long as they don't mess with me, they cool.
Right.
But from the outside looking in, we're dying, and nobody cares about that. Nobody care about that.
Wow.
And it goes back to that mental health. It goes back to depression. It goes back to our immediate state of reality that we don't see a greater tomorrow. We don't. People can't see past their nose.
Right.
And they accept that. People don't fight that reality. People don't say, I want to fight for more. People are comfortable seeing the tip of their nose. I'm cool with that.
Right.
They're cool with that. I'm not cool with that. And I'm not cool with anybody that promotes that way of life. Not at all.
Wow. That was a lot. For a lot of people right now watching this, you probably got to take a few seconds to take all that in. That was a lot from somebody who did his time, still is doing his part in the community, and he's not letting them no time soon. So, as I mentioned earlier in Face's interview, we're probably going to have a special segment to really have real conversation about this entire thing in its entirety. But we're running out of time, so really quick, I just want the good brother to tell the people something that you want them to remember when all the work is gone, when you're finished doing what you got to do, when you've done your time where you can't do no more. What is it that you want to give to the next generation, my generation coming up, people that's coming behind you? Well, what is it that you want to leave with them?
Love yourself.
Okay.
Love yourself. Stop looking outside of yourself. Look into yourself. Know who you are. Regardless of what your passions are, your dreams are. Share that with the world. Nothing is funny. Nothing is ridiculous. Nothing is outlandish. Shine. A lot of us are afraid to shine because we're concerned about the perception around us. We got to stop thinking. We have to stop thinking like that. Live your life. More importantly, be critical in your thinking. And I know I'm very opinionated, but you got to understand that I'm a very calculating person, and I do test studies on people. The people don't maybe you're writing exact, so you understand it. Like I throw things out into the universe.
I got caught in the test
just to see what people bite on.
Right.
And the census is that the majority of us is trivial because being trivial doesn't come with any responsibility. It's cool to laugh at something, but when somebody asks you, why are you laughing? You got to be able to stand and explain why you're laughing. Then
Facts.
If it's me, I'm going to ask you what then if you find this funny, what's going to be your follow-up? How are you going to change this narrative? And many people don't think that far. And because we don't think that far, we become argumentative. We become frustrated. We become combative. And all of those are the signs of a limited mind state. Because regardless of what we're discussing and what we're talking about, whether I agree with you or not, I got to sit there and think about it. I got to analyze and put myself in it. If I don't have a proper response for you, I have to say it. But the definitive thing is, where do I take your stance and build from it?
Right.
Many of us don't want to build. We just want to exist. And that's why stuff happens to us. Because we're comfortable just existing. And me being here, like I said, is motivation for me.
Right.
Because I'm not real big on...
That's right. That I know. So this is actually you stepping a bit out of your comfort zone, and I appreciate that.
Exactly. And I thank you for it.
No doubt.
I just want, our brothers, our sisters, stop just sharing the words love and all of this stuff on social media. Mm-hmm. Greet your people with love, man. Greet your people with peace, man. Mm-hmm. Assist them. Even if I can't physically be here to assist them, he know if he called me, and I got to connect.
I called him the other day. And
my connect is his connect.
Right.
Oh, yeah, indeed. If you need something, and that's how
he really did.
That's how we have to be.
Right.
All jokes aside, that's how we have to be.
Yeah.
And,
You're right.
That's simple.
I appreciate that, man.
I'm wholehearted with that.
So, with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in with Tea Time with Distinguished. My good brother here, Siekiem. Please let the people know where they can find you, social media and all that.
You can find me in the hood near you, man. You can find me on
He got gully. He got my man face dying in the back.
I'm just saying. I'm not hard to find, man. I'm everywhere, but you can find me at SIEKIEM_KONTOM. That's on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Siekiem Kontom, SIEKIEM KONTOM. You can find me on Instagram under my author's page, author_Siekiem Kontom. And like I said before,
right.
You can find me in the barrel near you, man. It's not hard to find, man.
Correction. He said you can find him in the hood near you.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again. Once again, it's Tea Time with Distinguished, and remember to always sip wisely.